The coffee shop on Maple Street had been serving the same people for 20 years. Same faces, same orders, same gossip that spread like wildfire through the small town of Greendale, Pennsylvania. It was a Tuesday morning when she first walked in. Lieutenant Maya Chen moved slowly through the door, her gait uneven, her right leg dragging just slightly behind her left. She wore jeans and a plain gray sweatshirt. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail. Her face was calm, expressionless, like someone who had learned not to show pain. The bell above the door chimed. Conversations paused, eyes turned, and then the whispers began. "Did you see that limp? Poor thing. Wonder what happened to her. Probably some accident. She looks young too." Maya heard them. She always heard them. But she didn't react. She just walked to the counter, ordered a black coffee, and sat down by the window. Alone. This became her routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, Maya would come to the coffee shop. She'd order the same thing, sit in the same spot, and she'd pull out a notebook and write. Sometimes she'd stare out the window for long stretches, her eyes distant, like she was seeing something no one else could see. The town didn't know what to make of her. Greendale was a military town, sure. There was a small veterans hall on 3rd Street and a memorial in the town square. People respected soldiers here, but Maya never wore anything that identified her as one. No hat, no jacket with patches, no flag pin. She was just the quiet woman who limped, and in a town where everyone knew everyone, a stranger stood out, especially one who didn't talk. It didn't take long for the rumors to start. "I heard she was in a car crash," said Donna Fletcher, the town's biggest gossip, while waiting in line one morning, texting and driving probably. "That's what happens to young people these days." "Maybe she's on disability," someone else muttered, "living off the government." "You know how it is. She doesn't look disabled to me," another voice chimed in. "Just lazy, probably faking it." The words stung the air like wasps, but Maya never responded. She just sipped her coffee and kept writing. Then one Thursday, things escalated. A man named Rick Bowen walked into the coffee shop. He was loud, arrogant, and had a reputation for running his mouth. He'd served 4 years in the Army back in the 90s, and he never let anyone forget it. He wore his old unit cap everywhere, and talked about his time in like he'd stormed Normandy. He saw Maya sitting by the window, and he saw her limp when she stood to refill her coffee. Rick smirked. "Hey," he said loudly so the whole shop could hear. "You okay there, sweetheart? Need some help walking?" Maya didn't answer. She just kept moving toward the counter. "Rick wasn't done. I'm serious. You hurt yourself or something? Because if you can't walk right, maybe you shouldn't be taking up space meant for people who actually need it." A few people glanced away, uncomfortable, but no one said anything. Maya filled her cup, turned, looked Rick dead in the eyes. "I'm fine," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, calm, but there was something underneath it. "Something hard," Rick laughed. "Yeah, sure you are. Let me guess, tripped over your own feet? Sprained your ankle at the gym?" Maya didn't blink. "Something like that." She walked past him, her limp just as pronounced as before, and sat back down. Rick shook his head, still grinning. "Unbelievable," he muttered to the guy next to him. "Kids these days. No toughness. Back in my day, you sucked it up." The coffee shop returned to its low hum of conversation, but something had shifted. Maya's hand, resting on her notebook, was trembling, not from fear, from restraint. Weeks passed. The mockery didn't stop. Donna Fletcher started calling her the limping girl whenever she talked about her. Rick made it a point to comment every time he saw her, always with that same condescending smirk. "Still limping, huh? You ever gonna get that checked out? Maybe try some yoga. Heard that helps. Or just stay home if it's that bad." Maya never responded, never defended herself, never explained, and that only made it worse. People began to assume the worst. That she was faking. That she was looking for attention. That she was milking some minor injury for sympathy. "She doesn't even use a cane," Donna said one afternoon. "If she was really hurt, she'd use a cane." "Exactly," someone agreed. "It's all for show." The manager of the coffee shop, an older man named Frank, watched it all with growing discomfort. He'd been a Marine in Vietnam. He knew something about pain. And he knew something about the look in Maya's eyes. He'd seen it before in mirrors, in old photographs. in the faces of men who came home different. One morning, after Rick had made another snide comment and left, Frank walked over to Maya's table. "Don't listen to him," Frank said quietly. "He's all talk." Maya looked up. Her expression didn't change. "It's fine," she said. "It's not fine," Frank replied. "But I get it. You don't owe anyone an explanation." Maya studied him for a moment. Then she nodded once. Frank walked away. But he kept watching. It was a Saturday in late September when everything changed. The town of Greendale held its annual Veterans Day early parade. It was a tradition: flags, fire trucks, a high school marching band, and a ceremony at the memorial in the square. Rick Bowen was front and center, wearing his old uniform, shaking hands, soaking up the attention. Donna Fletcher was handing out little American flags to kids. The whole town had turned out. Maya stood at the back of the crowd, alone, hands in her pockets. She wasn't wearing anything special, just jeans, a jacket, and boots. She watched quietly as the ceremony began. The mayor gave a speech. A local pastor said a prayer. Names of fallen soldiers were read aloud, and then Rick stepped up to the microphone. "I just want to say," he began, his voice booming, "that serving this country was the greatest honor of my life, and I think it's important that we remember what real service looks like. Real sacrifice." He paused for effect. "Not everyone who claims to support the troops actually knows what it means to serve." A few people clapped. Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. "Not yet." Rick continued. "We live in a time where people fake injuries, fake hardships, fake everything, just to get a little attention. But real veterans, we know the difference." He looked out over the crowd, chest puffed. "We know what it means to bleed for this country." The applause grew louder, and that's when Maya started, walking, slowly, deliberately, her limp more visible than ever. People turned. Rick saw her coming. He frowned, confused. Maya reached the front of the crowd and stopped. She looked up at Rick, and then, without a word, she bent down and rolled up her right pant leg. The crowd gasped, because what they saw wasn't flesh. It was metal, a prosthetic leg, sleek, modern, military grade, and just above the joint, tattooed onto the pale skin of her residual limb, was a small purple heart, the symbol every soldier knows, the medal given only to those wounded in combat. Rick's face went white. Maya straightened up. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The silence said everything. The air in the town square felt frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. All eyes were locked on Maya Chen, on the prosthetic leg gleaming in the autumn sunlight, on the purple heart tattoo that told a story none of them had bothered to ask about. Rick Bowen stood at the microphone, his mouth half open, his face drained of color. His hands gripped the podium like he might fall over without it. The mayor, standing off to the side, cleared his throat nervously, but Maya didn't wait for anyone to recover. She rolled her pant leg back down, turned and walked away. Every step echoed in the silence, limp and all. She disappeared into the crowd, and only then did the whispers explode. "Did you see that? Oh my God, she's a veteran. She lost her leg. I can't believe Rick just..." Donna Fletcher stood frozen, her hand still clutching a tiny American flag, her face pale with shame. Frank, the coffee shop owner, stood near the back with his arms crossed and a grim smile on his face. He'd known, maybe not the details, but he'd known. Rick stumbled away from the microphone without finishing his speech. The ceremony continued, but no one was really listening anymore. The town of Greendale had just been hit with a truth they couldn't ignore. By Sunday morning, the story had spread to every corner of town. The coffee shop was packed. Everyone wanted to talk about it. "I heard she was Army." "No, Marine Corps." "Someone said she served in Afghanistan." "Iraq, I think." "Doesn't matter. She's a hero, and we treated her like garbage." Donna sat in the corner booth staring into her cup of tea, looking smaller than anyone had ever seen her. She hadn't said a word all morning. Rick Bowen didn't show up at all, but Maya did. She walked in at her usual time, ordered her black coffee, and sat by the window like she always did. The room went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't judgment, it was shame. Frank brought her coffee over himself. "On the house," he said quietly. "Today and every day." Maya looked up at him. Her expression was unreadable. You don't have to do that. I know, Frank said. But I want to. She nodded once. Frank hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, thank you. For your service. Maya's eyes flickered with something. Maybe gratitude, maybe pain. She didn't say anything. Just gave a small nod. Frank walked away, and Maya went back to her notebook. But the town wasn't done. Over the next few days, people started approaching her. At first, it was awkward, tentative. A woman named Karen, who had never spoken to Maya before, stopped by her table one morning. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, Karen said, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I shouldn't have assumed. Maya looked up. It's okay. It's not, Karen said. But thank you for everything you did. She walked away. Before Maya could respond, then came others. Teacher from the high school, a construction worker who'd seen her around, town a young mother who'd heard the story, secondhand. Each one said some version of the same thing. I'm sorry, thank you, I didn't know. Maya accepted their words with quiet grace, but she didn't offer details, didn't tell her story. She just let them say what they needed to say, and then she went back to being invisible. But Greendale wouldn't let her. By Wednesday, the local newspaper ran a front-page story. Silent hero among us wounded veteran lives, quietly in Greendale. The article didn't have many details because Maya hadn't given an interview, but it had enough: her name, her rank, the fact that she'd served 2 tours overseas, that she'd been medically retired after an IED explosion took her leg and nearly took her life, that she'd been awarded the Purple Heart, and that she'd been living in Greendale for 6 months, attending physical therapy twice a week, trying to rebuild a normal life, all while the town mocked her. The article didn't say that last part outright, but everyone read between the lines. The shame deepened, especially for Rick Bowen. He'd gone into hiding after the parade, stopped going to the coffee shop, stopped wearing his army cap in public. Word got around that he'd called in sick to work. People who used to respect him now whispered his name with disgust. Can you believe what he said to her? And he calls himself a veteran. He should apologize. He should be ashamed. But Rick didn't apologize, at least, not publicly. He stayed home, curtains drawn, avoiding the world, until Friday night. Maya was walking home from the grocery store when she saw him. Rick Bowen was sitting on a bench outside the town library, hunched over, hands clasped between his knees. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a week. Maya slowed. She could have walked past him. Should have, maybe. But something made her stop. Rick looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. I'm sorry, he said. His voice cracked. Maya stood there, grocery bag in one hand, weighing his words. I didn't know, Rick continued. I don't know what I thought. He rubbed his face. I was an idiot. I'm so sorry. Maya studied him for a long moment, then she spoke. You weren't an idiot, she said quietly. You were cruel. Rick flinched like she'd slapped him. There's a difference, Maya continued. An idiot doesn't know better, you did. You just didn't care. Rick's head dropped. Maya shifted her weight. Her prosthetic leg ached. It always did after long walks, but, she said, I've seen worse, done by better men. Rick looked up, confused. Maya's expression softened just slightly. You want to make it right? She asked. Rick nodded desperately. Yes, anything. Maya glanced toward the Veterans Hall down the street. It was old, run down, barely used. That place could use some work, she said. Roof leaks. Paint's peeling. Lawn's a mess. Rick followed her gaze. You got time? Maya asked. I'll make time, Rick said. Maya nodded. Good, start tomorrow. She turned to leave. Maya, Rick called. She stopped. Thank you, he said. Maya didn't turn around. Don't thank me, she said. Just do better. And she walked away. By the next morning, Rick was at the Veterans Hall with a ladder, paintbrushes, and a lawnmower. Frank showed up an hour later with sandwiches and water. Then Karen came with her husband and some tools. By noon, a dozen people were there, all working, all trying, in their own way, to make up for what they'd done, or hadn't done. Maya didn't join them. She watched from across the street, coffee in hand, a small, almost invisible smile on her lips. That night, alone in her small apartment, Maya sat on the edge of her bed and carefully removed her prosthetic. She ran her fingers over the purple heart tattoo. It had been 2 years since the explosion. 2 years since she'd woken up in a hospital in Germany, groggy and confused, and realized her leg was gone. 2 years since her team had carried her out of that desert, bleeding and screaming, while enemy fire tore the air apart. She'd survived, but 3 of her soldiers hadn't. Their names were tattooed on her ribs, right above her heart. Maya closed her eyes and took a slow breath. Greendale didn't know her story, not really, and maybe they never would. But for the first time since she'd arrived in this quiet little town, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could start to heal. Not because they'd apologized, but because she'd reminded them what respect looked like, and sometimes that was enough. 3 weeks later, the Veterans Hall looked like a different building. Fresh paint covered the old wooden siding. The roof had been patched and sealed. The lawn was trimmed and edged. New American flags hung on either side of the front door, and someone had even planted flowers along the walkway. Rick Bowen had worked on it every single day, rain or shine. Frank helped when he could. So did others. But Rick was always there first and left last. His hands were blistered. His back ached. But he didn't complain. He didn't have the right to complain. Maya walked past the hall one afternoon and stopped to look at it. Rick was up on a ladder, fixing a gutter. He saw her and climbed down quickly, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Hey," he said, a little out of breath. "Looks good," Maya said simply. Rick glanced back at the building. "Yeah, getting there." He paused. "We're having a reopening next Saturday. Small thing. Coffee, some food. Local vets are invited." "I was hoping. Maybe you'd come?" Maya didn't answer right away. Rick shifted nervously. "You don't have to." "I just thought, I'll think about it," Maya said. Rick nodded, relief washing over his face. "Okay, yeah, that's good." Maya turned to leave, then stopped. "Rick, yeah?" She looked back at him. "You're doing a good thing here. Keep doing it." Rick's throat tightened. "I will." Maya walked away, and Rick stood there watching her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in weeks. A little less shame. A little more purpose. But not everyone in Greendale was on a path to redemption. Donna Fletcher had gone quiet since the parade. But her silence wasn't born from reflection. It was born from resentment. She didn't like being wrong, and she really didn't like being publicly humiliated. In her mind, Maya had embarrassed her, made her look like a fool in front of the whole town. And instead of apologizing like Rick had, Donna doubled down. She started talking again. Quietly at first. I mean, yes, she served. That's admirable. But does that give her the right to make everyone feel terrible? She could have just told people. Instead, she let us all think the worst. Honestly, it feels a little manipulative, doesn't it? The poison spread slowly, a comment here, a whisper there. Some people ignored her. But others, people who felt uncomfortable with their own guilt, latched onto it. It was easier to be angry at Maya than to sit with their shame. Donna's daughter, Jessica, was one of them. Jessica was in her early 30s, recently divorced, and worked at the town's only grocery store. She'd never paid much attention to Maya before, but now, listening to her mother, she started to see Maya as the problem. "She's getting all this attention now," Jessica said one evening over dinner at Donna's house. "People treating her like some kind of saint." "But what did she actually do?" "We don't even know," Donna nodded eagerly. "Exactly. For all we know, she got hurt in some accident on base. That happens, you know. People get the Purple Heart for all sorts of things." It wasn't true, but it sounded true enough. And in a small town, that was all it took. Maya noticed the shift. It was subtle at first. A woman at the grocery store who wouldn't make eye contact, a group of people at the coffee shop who stopped talking when she walked in, the way Jessica rang up her groceries without a single word, her face cold and tight. Maya didn't react. She'd been through worse than small-town gossip, but it stung in a different way. Because for a brief moment, she'd thought maybe Greendale could be home. Maybe she could be more than her injury, more than her past. But the whispers reminded her of something she'd learned a long time ago. People don't like uncomfortable truths, and she was a walking, limping reminder of one. It came to a head on a Thursday afternoon. Maya was at the coffee shop, sitting in her usual spot. when Donna and Jessica walked in together. Donna saw her immediately, and instead of ignoring her, she walked right up to Maya's table. "Can I talk to you?" Donna said. Her tone wasn't friendly. Maya looked up slowly. "About what?" "About the way you've made this entire town feel like criminals," Donna said, loud enough for others to hear. The coffee shop went silent. Maya set down her pen. "I haven't made anyone feel anything." "Oh, please," Donna snapped. "You walked around here for months, letting people think whatever they wanted. You never said a word. And then you humiliate everyone at the parade by pulling some dramatic stunt." "Stunt?" Maya's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. "Yes," Donna said. "You could have just told people you were a veteran. But you didn't. You wanted people to judge you so you could play the victim." Jessica stood behind her mother, arms crossed, nodding. Maya stood up slowly. She was smaller than Donna, quieter. But when she looked at her, Donna took an involuntary step back. "You want to know why I didn't tell anyone?" Maya said, her voice low and steady. Donna didn't answer. "Because I don't owe you my story," Maya continued. "I don't owe you my trauma. I don't owe you an explanation for the way I walk or the way I look or the sacrifices I made." She took a step closer. "I came here to heal, to live quietly, to be left alone. But you couldn't do that, could you?" Donna's face flushed red. "You had to talk, had to assume, had to mock what you didn't understand." Maya's eyes were blazing now. "So don't you dare stand here and tell me I'm the problem. I didn't humiliate you. You humiliated yourself." The coffee shop was dead silent. Donna's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Jessica looked at the floor. Maya grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. But before she left, she turned back. "I fought for this country," she said quietly. "I bled for it. I lost friends for it, and I'd do it all again. Not for people like you, but for the idea that people like you get to live free enough to be cruel." She pushed through the door and left. The bell chimed, and Donna stood there, shaking, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, from shame. That night, Frank closed the coffee shop early. He found Maya sitting on a bench near the river. Staring at the water, he sat down beside her without asking. For a long time, neither of them spoke. "You okay?" Frank finally asked. Maya nodded. "Yeah, that was something, what you said in there." Maya didn't respond. Frank leaned back. "You know, after I came back from Vietnam, I didn't talk to anyone for 2 years. Just worked, drank, kept my head down." He glanced at her. "Took me a long time to realize that people don't understand unless you make them, and even then some never will." Maya looked at him. "So what's the point?" Frank smiled sadly. "The point is you don't do it for them. You do it for you. And for the ones who do get it." He stood up, joints creaking. "You're welcome at my shop anytime, Maya, and I mean that." He walked away, leaving her alone with the river and the fading light. Maya sat there until the stars came out. And for the first time in months, she cried. Not from anger, not from pain, but from exhaustion, from carrying a weight no one else could see. The next morning, Maya didn't go to the coffee shop, or the next day or the day after that. She stayed home, icing her residual limbs, stretching, resting, thinking. By Saturday, the day of the Veterans Hall reopening, she still hadn't decided if she'd go. She stood in front of her mirror looking at herself, at the scars, the prosthetic, the tired eyes. She thought about the people who'd apologized and the ones who hadn't. She thought about Rick, working himself raw to make amends, and Donna, poisoning the well because she couldn't handle being wrong. Maya took a deep breath and made a decision. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, the Veterans Hall was full. Local vets, families, town officials. Even the mayor was there. Rick stood near the door, greeting people, shaking hands, his face nervous but hopeful. Frank was inside, pouring coffee, and then the door opened. Maya walked in. She wore jeans, a simple blue shirt, and a jacket. And pinned to her chest was something she hadn't worn in 2 years, her Purple Heart medal. The room fell silent. Every eye turned. Rick's face broke into a wide, tearful smile. Frank nodded from across the room, and slowly, one by one, the veterans in the room stood. They didn't salute. They didn't clap. They just stood, in respect, In recognition, in silence, Maya's throat tightened, but she didn't look away. She walked through the room, head high, limp and all. And for the first time since she'd come to Greendale, she felt like she belonged. The reopening of the Veterans Hall became a turning point for Greendale, not just for the building, but for the town itself. Maya stayed for 2 hours that afternoon. She didn't say much, but she didn't have to. Her presence was enough. Veterans who had served in Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and Iraq came up to her one by one. Some shook her hand. Others just nodded. A few had tears in their eyes. They understood what the others didn't. The weight she carried wasn't just physical. An older man named Carl, who'd lost his hearing in Vietnam, sat down next to her at one point. "You doing okay?" he asked, his voice too loud the way deaf people's voices sometimes are. Maya nodded. "Getting there," Carl smiled. "It takes time. Longer than people think." He tapped his chest. "The outside heals faster than the inside." Maya looked at him. Really looked at him. "Yeah," she said quietly. "It does." Carl patted her shoulder and walked away. And Maya realized something. She wasn't alone. Not really. She never had been. Across the room, Rick was talking to the mayor about future projects for the hall. His whole demeanor had changed. He stood straighter, spoke with more humility. He wasn't the loud, arrogant man he'd been a month ago. Suffering had a way of doing that. So did Grace, because Maya could have destroyed him. She could have called him out publicly, shamed him the way he'd shamed her. But she didn't. She gave him a chance to be better, and he'd taken it. Frank watched it all from behind the coffee table, a slight smile on his weathered face. He'd seen a lot in his 73 years. War, loss, grief. But he'd also seen redemption. And that's what this was. Messy, imperfect redemption, but real. Donna Fletcher did not attend the reopening. Neither did her daughter Jessica. They stayed home, curtains drawn, avoiding the eyes of the town. Because while some people in Greendale had found the courage to apologize and change, Donna had only found bitterness. She told herself she'd done nothing wrong, that Maya was too sensitive, that people were overreacting. But deep down, in the quiet moments late at night, Donna knew the truth. She'd been cruel, and she didn't know how to come back from that, so she didn't try. Jessica, however, was different. She was younger, less set in her ways, and watching her mother spiral into resentment scared her. She didn't want to become that. So on Sunday morning, Jessica did something her mother would never do. She went to Maya's apartment. Maya answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, her prosthetic off. Leaning on a crutch, she looked surprised. "Jessica," Maya said carefully. Jessica stood on the doorstep, hands shaking. "I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve to be here. I know I was awful, but I needed to say it to your face." Maya studied her for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." Jessica hesitated, then walked inside. The apartment was small and neat. A few books on the shelf, a laptop on the table, a photo on the wall, Maya in uniform standing with her unit, all of them smiling. 3 of the faces were circled in red marker. Jessica stared at the photo. Maya saw her looking. "Those are the ones who didn't come home," Maya said quietly. Jessica's breath caught. "I'm so sorry." Maya sat down on the couch, adjusting her residual limb carefully. "Why are you here, Jessica?" Jessica sat across from her, wiping her eyes. "Because my mom is turning into someone I don't recognize. And I realized I was starting to do the same thing." She looked up at Maya. "I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be someone who hurts people because I'm too proud to admit I was wrong." Maya nodded slowly. "Then don't be. It's that simple?" "No," Maya said. "It's not simple at all. But it's a choice. Every day it's a choice." Jessica wiped her face. "How do you do it? After everything you've been through, how do you not just hate everyone?" Maya looked down at her hands. "Because hate takes more energy than I have left," she said. "I spent 2 years hating the person who planted the IED that took my leg. Hating the war, hating myself for surviving when my friends didn't." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were distant. And it didn't bring them back. It didn't fix anything. It just made the pain worse. She looked up at Jessica. So I decided to save my energy for healing, for living, for the people who deserve it. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on people like me. Maya's expression softened. I haven't given up on anyone, but I'm also not going to beg people to see my humanity. If they can't see it, that's on them. Jessica stood. I'm going to do better. I promise. Maya stood too, balancing on her crutch. Good. Jessica walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Maya didn't respond. She just nodded once, and Jessica left. That night, Jessica went home and had the hardest conversation of her life with her mother. It didn't go well, Donna yelled. Made excuses. Played the victim, but Jessica didn't back down. You were wrong, Mom, and if you can't see that, then I don't know what else to say. Donna didn't speak to her for 3 days, but on the 4th day, she called. I need help, Donna said quietly. With what? Jessica asked. There was a long pause. I don't know how to apologize. Jessica closed her eyes, relief flooding through her. I'll help you, Mom, but you have to mean it. I do, Donna whispered. I really do. 2 weeks later, on a cold November morning, Maya was at the coffee shop, her usual spot. Her usual coffee. The door opened. Donna Fletcher walked in. The entire shop went quiet. Donna saw Maya and walked straight to her table. Maya looked up. Her face unreadable. Donna stood there, trembling. I'm sorry, Donna said. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry for the things I said, for the assumptions I made, for the way I treated you. Tears streamed down her face. I was wrong, completely wrong, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But I needed you to know. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Then she gestured to the chair across from her. Sit down. Donna blinked, surprised. What? Sit, Maya said again. Donna sat. Maya took a sip of her coffee. You hurt me. Donna's face crumpled. I know. And you made a hard time even harder. I know. Maya set her cup down. But you're here, and that takes guts. Donna looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. I'm not going to tell you it's okay, Maya said, because it's not. But I will tell you this, if you mean what you say, prove it. Not to me, to yourself. Donna nodded, wiping her eyes. How? Maya leaned back. Be kinder. Listen more. Stop assuming you know people's stories. Donna nodded again. I will. I promise. Maya studied her, then extended her hand. Donna took it, shaking it firmly. Thank you, Donna whispered. Maya didn't smile. But her grip was strong. Don't thank me yet, Maya said. Just do the work. Donna stood and walked away, her shoulders lighter than they'd been in weeks. Frank, watching from behind the counter, caught Maya's eye and gave her a small nod of respect. Maya nodded back. Winter came to Greendale. Snow covered the streets, the trees, the Veterans Hall. Maya kept going to the coffee shop, kept going to physical therapy, kept writing in her notebook. But something had changed. People knew her now. Not as the woman who limps, but as Maya, as Lieutenant Chen, as someone who had given more than most would ever understand. Rick continued working at the Veterans Hall, organizing events, helping other vets find resources. Donna volunteered at the local food bank and stopped gossiping. Jessica started taking college classes online, working toward the future she'd always been too scared to chase. And Frank kept serving coffee, watching over his little corner of the world with the quiet pride of a man who'd seen people at their worst and helped them find their best. On Veterans Day, a full year after the parade, Greendale held another ceremony. This time, Maya was asked to speak. She stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, hundreds of faces. Some she knew, some she didn't. She took a breath. I didn't come here to be a hero, she began. I came here to disappear, to heal in private, to be normal. She paused. But I learned something this year. You can't heal in isolation, and you can't be normal when the world sees you as different. Her voice grew stronger. I lost my leg in Afghanistan. I lost friends. I lost pieces of myself I'll never get back. The crowd was silent. But I gained something too. I gained perspective. I gained strength. And I gained the knowledge that the hardest battles aren't fought with guns. She looked out at Rick, at Donna, at Jessica, at Frank. They're fought with grace, with forgiveness, with the choice to be better even when it's easier to be bitter. She gripped the podium. So to everyone who judged me, mocked me, or ignored me, thank you. You reminded me why I served. Not because people are perfect, but because they're capable of change. Her eyes shone. And to those who stood by me, supported me, and saw me when I felt invisible, thank you. You reminded me I'm not alone. She stepped back. The crowd erupted in applause. Not polite applause. Thunderous, tearful, heartfelt applause. Maya looked out at them, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled, a real smile. After the ceremony, as people mingled and talked, a young girl approached Maya. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Are you a real soldier? The girl asked. Maya knelt down, balancing carefully. I was, yes. Did it hurt? Losing your leg? Yes, Maya said honestly. It still does sometimes. The girl thought about that. Are you scared? Maya looked into the girl's wide, innocent eyes. Sometimes, she said. But I don't let it stop me, the girl smiled. You're brave, Maya's throat tightened. So are you, she said. The girl hugged her, quick and tight, then ran back to her parents. Maya stood, watching her go, and in that moment, she realized something. She'd come to Greendale broken, but she was leaving it whole. Not healed, not perfect, but whole.